My wife said, "I'm inviting my ex to stay a month." I said nothing. Reddit stories. I'm a 36-year-old guy, and this happened at exactly 7:43 p.m. on a Thursday night. I was standing in our kitchen, stirring a pot of chili, when my wife, Rebecca, she's 34, leaned against the counter with her phone in her hand and said, almost casually, "I'm inviting my ex, Daniel, to stay here for a month." I didn't say a word. The spoon just froze in my hand. The sound of the chili bubbling felt louder than her voice. For a second, I thought maybe I'd misheard. But then she repeated it, slower, this time, like she was testing me. "Yeah, Daniel, he's moving back to town. Needs a place. Just for a month." My chest went cold. Rebecca and I had been married for 9 years, together for 12. I knew about Daniel. He was her college boyfriend. Tall, athletic, one of those guys everyone liked. She swore years ago they had ended on good terms. I never thought much about it, but now she wanted him in our house. I didn't argue. I just nodded once and said nothing. She seemed irritated at my silence, like she expected a fight. When she didn't get one, she rolled her eyes and walked off. The next morning, I sat in my car outside my office at 8:06 a.m., replaying it. My first thought was, why him? Why here? My second thought was, what's her angle? I decided to play it cool. If she wanted to test me, I'd let her. But I'd also gather evidence. That Friday night, she started cleaning the guest room obsessively. I heard her on the phone at 10:22 p.m., whispering. I only caught part of it. "Yeah, he'll be comfortable here. No, don't worry about him." By Monday, Daniel arrived. I came home from work at exactly 5:31 p.m. and saw his car in our driveway. A shiny black Ford Explorer with tinted window. Rebecca greeted him at the door like she was seeing an old friend after years apart. She hugged him tight, too long. I just stood there with my briefcase and said, "Welcome." "Hey man," he said, flashing a smile. "Thanks for letting me crash here." I didn't reply. The first week was polite. He stayed mostly in the guest room, came out for meals. We had awkward small talk at dinner. But I noticed details. He'd leave his cologne in the bathroom cabinet. Rebecca would laugh at his jokes a little too hard. One night, I came down at 12:40 and found them sitting at the kitchen island drinking wine, whispering. Rebecca said, "Oh, we're just catching up." I just nodded. Inside, my mind was burning, but I kept my cool. I started saving proof. I bought a small voice recorder and placed it under the couch cushion. I set up a hidden camera in the garage. I screenshotted texts I saw on her phone when she left it charging. "It feels so natural having you here again. Don't worry, he won't say anything." By the second week, the cracks showed. On Wednesday at 3:14, Rebecca texted me, "Working late tonight, don't wait up." I drove past her office. Her car wasn't there. Instead, it was at a Holiday Inn Express 5 miles away. I took photos of her car in the lot. I waited 30 minutes. Sure enough, at 7:02 p.m., she walked out with Daniel. His hand brushed her lower back as they laughed. I snapped more photos. I didn't confront her. Not yet. The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek before work like nothing was wrong. I smiled back. By week 3, Daniel started getting comfortable. Too comfortable. He'd walk around shirtless, even when I was home. He left his laundry mixed with ours. One Saturday morning at 10:47 a.m., I found him sitting at my kitchen table drinking from my favorite mug, the one my dad gave me. That's when I decided, enough. I hired a private investigator. His name was Scott, 52, ex-cop. I handed him everything, the texts, the photos, the recordings. Within 4 days he delivered a full report. He had shots of Rebecca and Daniel at a restaurant, holding hands. Receipts of a hotel stay booked under Daniel's name, but paid with Rebecca's card. $217 for one night. Audio of them in my living room, while I was at work. Rebecca whispering, "I don't know how much longer I can hide this." When Scott handed me the folder at 6:20 in his office, I felt oddly calm. The next twist came fast. Sunday evening, I was grilling outside. Daniel came out with a beer and said, "Man, you're cool about all this. Most guys would freak." I turned, looked him in the eye, and said nothing. He smirked like he knew something. Later that night, I checked the hidden camera in the garage. At 11:48 p.m., it caught Rebecca sneaking out to his car. She carried an overnight bag. They drove off together. I saved the footage. By the end of week 4, I had a binder full of evidence. Photos, texts, recordings, receipt. Every page told the same story. Rebecca and Daniel weren't just catching up. They were having an affair under my roof. The breaking point came on a Tuesday night. At 9:17 p.m., Rebecca came into the living room and said, "We need to talk." I set my book down. She sighed. I think we've grown apart. Daniel and I, we have history. I feel like maybe we're meant to explore this again. I don't want to hurt you, but I need to be honest. I stared at her, calm, collected. Then I said, "Are you kidding me?" She blinked. "I'm serious." I leaned back, folded my arms, and said, "Sounds like consequences." She looked shocked that I wasn't begging, wasn't fighting. She muttered, "You're so cold." I replied, "That's a personal problem." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't show her the evidence. Not yet. I just let the silence sit heavy in the room. The next day I called a lawyer. Her name was Claire, 41, sharp as a blade. I showed her everything. She looked through the binder, shook her head, and said, "This is airtight. She's going to regret every choice she made." We started drafting papers. At home, Rebecca acted like nothing had happened. She and Daniel laughed in the kitchen, made inside jokes, left wine glasses on the counter. But I stayed calm, methodical. Every time I walked past them, I thought, by the end of the month, I was ready to strike. The day Daniel was supposed to leave, Rebecca came into the living room at 8:04 a.m. She stood there with her arms crossed, shifting nervously. "So, I think Daniel might need to stay a little longer, just until he gets settled." I didn't even look up from my coffee. "No," I said calmly. Her eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me." I sipped slowly. "He leaves today." She opened her mouth to argue, but then she froze, because that's when Claire, my lawyer, walked. I'd arranged for her to meet me at the house at 8 sharp. She had the folder in her hand. Rebecca's face drained of color. "What's going on?" she asked, voice trembling. Claire smiled politely. "Rebecca, I'm your husband's attorney. He's filing for divorce on grounds of adultery." Rebecca's jaw dropped. You can't be serious." I finally set my cup down and looked her dead in the eye. "I'm very serious." She stammered. "There's no proof." Claire opened the folder, pulled out photos of her and Daniel at the hotel, the receipts, the text. She laid them out on the coffee table one by one. Rebecca's hands shook as she picked up the photo of her leaving the Holiday Inn with Daniel. This isn't what it looks like," she tried. I cut her off. "It's exactly what it looks like. And it's documented." At that moment, Daniel came down the stairs with his duffel bag. He saw the papers spread out, saw Claire, saw Rebecca's pale face. Should I?" I didn't even look at him. "Get out." Rebecca spun on him. "Daniel, say something. Tell him it's not." But Daniel just shook his head. "I didn't sign up for this." He grabbed his bag and walked out the door without another word. That was the last time I saw him. Rebecca turned back to me, tears in her eyes. "Please, don't do this. We can fix it. I made a mistake." I said nothing. That night she packed a bag and left to stay with a friend. The legal process moved fast. Claire filed everything with the court. Thanks to the mountain of evidence, I had the upper hand. The house was in my name only. I'd bought it before we married, so she had no claim. Claire made sure I wasn't paying spousal support either. Judges don't take kindly to someone moving their affair partner into the marital home, she explained. By March, just 6 weeks later, the divorce was finalized. Clean break. Rebecca tried everything. She sent long texts at 2 a.m. begging for forgiveness. She emailed me paragraphs about our history, and how Daniel had meant nothing. At one point she even showed up at my office parking lot, crying and saying, "We can go to counseling. Please don't throw this away." I looked at her and said, "Rebecca, you threw it away the moment you invited your ex into my house." Then I walked away. She never contacted me again after that. Here's where the story takes its last turns. 2 months later, in May, I ran into Daniel at a grocery store at exactly. He looked rough, unshaven, wearing a wrinkled hoodie, pushing a cart with nothing but frozen dinners and beer. He saw me, gave a half smile and said, "Guess she screwed us both." Huh? I didn't respond. I just walked past him. But a week later, one of Rebecca's old friends, Lisa, reached out. She said, "You're not gonna believe this, but Rebecca and Daniel broke up already. He drained her savings account. She's living in a one-bedroom apartment now." I'll admit, I felt a flicker of satisfaction, not because she was struggling, but because consequences had finally caught up. Meanwhile, my life improved. I poured my energy into my career. By September, I'd earned a promotion, senior project manager with a $15,000 raise. I also joined a running group. That's where I met Allison, a 33-year-old nurse. Kind, funny, grounded, nothing like the chaos Rebecca had dragged into my life. When Allison asked me about my past, I told her the short version. My ex-wife invited her ex to live with us. It didn't end well. Allison laughed and said, "Sounds like a nightmare." I smiled. It was, but it's over. Reddit has a way of asking, "So what happened after?" Here's the long-term aftermath. Rebecca tried to rebuild her life, but word spread in our social circle. People knew what she'd. Friends pulled away. Even her own sister Megan told me later. She embarrassed all of us. She thought she was being clever, but it backfired. Daniel, last I heard, he left town again. No one knows where he went. I sold the house a year later, bought a smaller place closer to my office, and started fresh. Allison moved in after 8 months of dating. Life is quieter, calmer. Looking back, the part that sticks with me isn't the affair itself. It's that moment in the kitchen when Rebecca first said, "I'm inviting my ex to stay a month." Like it was nothing. Like it was nothing. Like I was supposed to just accept it. But I didn't explode. I didn't beg. I stayed calm, collected, methodical. And that's what saved me. Justice wasn't loud. It was paperwork, evidence, and patience. And in the end, it worked. So here's my message to Rebecca. If she ever stumbles across this, you thought you could play 2 games at once. You thought silence meant weakness. But silence was strategy. And strategy is what ended you. Thanks for following this journey, Reddit. Edit. For everyone asking if I'm happy now, yes, more than I thought I'd be. Rebecca's chapter closed. Allison and I are building something real. And if I learned anything, it's this. When someone shows you who they are, don't argue. Just collect the evidence and let the consequences do the talking.